Hey! What you doing? I see you really like to fix stuff, huh?
Like, really,
Ooh.
I was trying to fix the
Okay.
thing, but then the other thing broke.
Oh.
So then I had to put the round thingy into the long square thingy-mabob.
Yeah.
Then I had to plug the greeblies into the nernies.
Uh-huh. Gotcha! Right! I like kittens. It's so cute! So, are you some kind of robot or a robot like a cyborg? Or maybe you got a robotronic computer brain. Boop, beep, boop, boop. Robot, robot, robot. Computing, computing.
In my previous video, I spoke about how this project started out as a 3D animated proof of concept. Even though it was created with 3D models, it was always intended to have a 2D vector style or cell shaded style look. The inception of this project came about around the same time 11 Labs was introduced. I had limited resources as far as voice acting. I realized with this tool, I have unlimited access to voices and voice acting possibilities. I figured this would be a great way to test out the voice capabilities of 11 Labs. The character Gigi is actually the name of one of the default voices in 11 Labs.
Happiness can exist only in acceptance.
I then created an audio clip that was my guideline to follow. As I animate my characters, I could use the voice clip as my reference.
I'm not a robot. Seriously, are you trying to be funny or something?
Really? Are you sure?
No, that's a robot.
Okay!
Unfortunately, by the time it came to animate, I couldn't create the footage fast enough. I eventually abandoned the project. At that time, AI video was not even a thing. Step a few years into the future, and now AI video is at a level we couldn't even imagine before. So I got the bright idea, hey, now would I be able to recreate that concept with the tools I have today? And this was the result. Once again, dealing with all the same usual suspects. The process that I always do, I've already created the first character, which is Gigi. And at this point, I'm developing the second character. And as always, going through different versions and trying different methods, looking for different colors and different looks for the secondary character that'll fit the style. I won't show you every single thing I've done, but I'll try to blast through this as fast as I can to just show you some of the examples and variations of the characters and designs that were done in the process of creating this short animation. Once the look of the character has been chosen, I can then move on to developing the look of the environment and creating props that the characters will interact with and so on. Overall, there was a larger story that I wanted to tell. But this is just a proof of concept. I just wanted to introduce the characters. Most of my stories are told within the same expanded universe. I just want to try different styles to tell stories within that universe. I'm a big fan of science fiction and animation, so this story has an underlying tone of science fiction. Once I've created the environments, I will then try to create the shots that help to tell the story. And in the process of creating the shots, I create multiple assets of different poses and different looks for each character. After I have created the still images for the shots, I can then move into generating video clips. And once the video clips have been generated, I then, as always, start to do the editing process and combining the video clips, adding sound, and developing dialogue. I actually don't remember every single video model that I used. As mentioned in my previous video, as far as 2D animated lip sync goes, I realized that Higsfield gave me the best results. However, overall, I find that Higsfield gave me a look that felt very 3D animated, that had a cell shader placed on top, not an actual 2D vector style. Comparing Higsfield with other video models, I found that the movement was not the movement I desired. It moved very slow, almost like it was in slow motion. I desired a much more punchy, faster moving, low frame rate style of animation.
Hey, what you doing? I see you really like to fix stuff, huh?
You can see with something like this shot here, the animation is much more to the style that I was looking for. It's much more of a low frame rate, flash style, vector style animation. It definitely doesn't look like 3D, and that's what I desired. Fortunately for me, there were a lot of video generators that did give that style I was looking for. On the other hand, there was no lip sync features. So I had to find a workaround to get the voices. It simply just came down to me not using lip sync at all, and then just trying to match the mouth movements as closely as possible in post-production. That meant sometimes I had to recut and reposition the audio clips to match the movements of the character's mouth and body, or re-edit the character's movements and try to find the clips that match the rhythm of the audio best. That's one of the benefits of working with a limited animation style like this. It gives you a lot more freedom and room to be imperfect. Timing in your post process is very important. Post-production techniques like editing, sound design, and timing helps to really pull it all together. Halfway through the project, I decided to push the limits and use green screen. That way, I can then separate the elements and recombine them as I pleased in the video editor. Looking at the Gigi character, I'm going to disable the keying for the green screen. You can clearly see that she's a separate element in her own layer and still fully animated. Here you can see an example of all the green screen elements without the keying applied to it, including the cat and both characters. The environment itself are just still images, PNG images with transparency for the counter so you could put the characters behind, and the wall itself is just a regular PNG image. This gives you the ability to also reuse elements within your composition. So the cat I've used over and over many times, and it's just one same shot of the cat. As an example here, I could just move the cat over. If I chose and I wanted the cat to be sitting on the floor, and the cat still remains animated. You can definitely see the flexibility here. If I wanted to change my mind, I can now easily do that after the fact in post-production while I'm composing the shot during the editing process. It's definitely beneficial to use layers and chroma key, which is the correct term for green screen because the screen doesn't necessarily have to be green. Essentially for me, dividing and conquering gives me the most creative freedom when it comes to creating my compositions. In this case, you can even go as far as removing and changing the entire background around the characters, yet keeping the exact same animation or even changing the framing and positioning of the characters within the composition. Which brings me to another benefit of using this method. What if you just want to change the character yet keep the environment and the other characters the same? So here's an example of me stitching multiple clips together to get a certain performance. So each pose here is from a separate performance that I've edited together. But because they're all the same size shot, it's hard to tell when it jumps from one shot to another. Also, it's a benefit of using this kind of vector animation style because it's so jittery, you wouldn't really notice. You wouldn't be able to get away with this in live action. In this shot here is a good example of me stitching performances together, enabling me to fine-tune the performance of each character individually. I'll solo the character here, and what I'm trying to demonstrate is that these are separate performances that were stitched together. So you're looking at these pink sections. These are the timeline sections of the character. So this pink one right here is one performance, and then this pink is another performance. So as I move over, you could see where it's stitched in the middle. As I move the timeline over, you can see that she pops between each performance, but it's so subtle. But also the style of animation, because it is a low frame rate style. So I wanted her to point to her head. So I had one performance of her just speaking with her arms outwards. And then I switch when she puts her arms down to this performance where she points to her head. And I just had to adjust the timing to match the dialogue. Here's another example of me stitching the performance with the Terra character in the yellow shirt here. I'll isolate her as well. There are two performances that were stitched together. I wanted to extend her performance. What I've done is taken the starting performance where she looks over her shoulder. Then I copied it and reversed it. So then she pauses and then looks back. That is the same clip used twice by reversing it. And because the character is isolated, it doesn't affect the rest of the scene. So it looks much more natural. Once you reveal everything in the scene, it no longer becomes something that's noticeable. It looks like a part of the performance because you're focusing on everything that's going on within the scene. This shot is interesting because I wanted to change the direction her eyes were looking at in the end of the animation. So what I did is I went in After Effects and tracked the white highlight in her eye and used that to position a mask. You can see the blue area that I used to create a mask over her eyes. The mask is linked to the tracking information so that it follows. So it's similar to rotoscoping, where you readjust the mask frame by frame if it drifts. But because I used tracking, it helped to keep it in place as the camera moved. If this was a still image, I wouldn't have had to use any tracking. Once the mask was created, I was able to go in and reconstruct the elements of the eye one by one with simple shapes and rearrange them in the position looking over her left shoulder towards the other character. I guess you could call this a Texas switch, where she blinks her eyes and then I quickly switch over to the new position. Again, because of the animation style I'm using, it blends in seamlessly and it gives me that extra bit of timing that I want, having the character's eyes dart over to the left. Here's another example of me using replacement animation on top of the AI generated animation. So if you're looking at her mouth, you can see she does a O shape. The original animation didn't have that, So I went in with a clone tool in Adobe After Effects, and that gives you the ability to remove the mouth and paint it out frame by frame. So you can see here for every frame, and it's a small section, I removed her mouth. And then on top, I was able to apply the shape of the mouth by using a shape tool or a spline tool and drawing in the shape that I wanted and animating that shape over time. Once I got the shape that I desired, which was the O sound, I then let the AI animation take over after that. What you're looking at here is the original of just her talking, so I didn't have to do the entire mouth. I just needed that O shape.
I knew it! You are a robot! How the are you doing that?
I would just like to give a quick shout out to all the people who posted in the comments on my last video. And of course, thanks to everyone that subscribed, liked, and watched the video.